afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our Stemming from Women discussion. This is a redox conversation with successful women across various STEM industries. I'm Georgia Forbes, founder and executive director of Ionic 6. We are a nonprofit organization that provides STEM programs for underserved communities and students, and the creator of the redox discussion. The redox series was designed to create a platform for us to have meaningful conversations. And redox, an unusual name, you may ask why that name. It's a chemical reaction, one where atoms transfer electrons and ultimately change their state. And this conversation as a platform is for us to exchange dialogue. So these are conversations of change that we are looking to ultimately change the conversations around us. Today, I have the honor of being the moderator and speaking with our distinguished guests today. And we do want everyone to be engaged. So we have allocated some time for questions, which will be at the end. However, please use the Q&A feature that you see at the bottom of your window to submit your questions. If we don't have an opportunity to respond while we are live, you will receive a written response to your question. So do feel free to willingly engage. I will start by introducing our panelists. So first we have Elizabeth Pritchard. She's the founder and CEO of White Rock Data Solutions. Elizabeth is a serial innovator, data activist, and analytics-driven C-suite executive and trusted business advisor with over 25 years of experience in data and finance. At White Rock, Liz works closely with her clients to protect their intellectual property, activate their data through product, business development, and go-to-market strategies. She is passionate about fostering the adoption of new data sources and data science and engineering tools to drive business outcomes. Her executive roles include managing director at Goldman Sachs for 20 years and 2 years each at AIG as COO and as co-founder for Crux Informatics. Elizabeth is advising the Alternative Data Council of the Software and Information Industry Association, a little bit of a tongue twister, on their go-to-market for industry-wide alternative data standards. She is a member of the board of directors of Eagle Alpha, a Dublin-based alternative data company. Liz holds a Bachelor of Science in Industrial Engineering from Northwestern University, a Master of Science in Industrial Engineering, and an MBA from Columbia University. Next, we have Tamara Skeeter. Tamara is an office engineer at Popley Design Group. She has been a consultant with the New York State Department of Transportation for more than 22 years. She is a member of the inspection team for major infrastructure projects throughout the city, which include highways, bridges, bikeways, and skate parks. Tamara was introduced to civil engineering in high school, and although she is a talented engineer, she was not always certain that this was the right field for her. Tamara pursued and received her Bachelor of Arts in Business Management from City College and found a way to take her interests and her passions and develop that into a successful career. We have with us today Ingrid Aravina. Ingrid is born and raised in New York. She earned a degree in film and sociology from Wesleyan University. Ingrid started out working in the film industry, both on set and as an editor on projects ranging from commercials to independent films. Discouraged with the reception as a woman in a male-dominated industry, she moved on to another passion, teaching. Ingrid has worked in education for over 10 years. She created and ran the Girl Scouts urban day camps, which served the city's most underprivileged areas. She worked closely with the owner and built Construction Kids, which taught woodworking to children as young as 3. And she also directed after-school programs throughout the city. 5 years ago, Ingrid put her two passions together and founded Cinema Kids, a hands-on, child-driven film and animation and media arts program for kids ages 5 through 15. Vera Silva is with us today. Vera is the Director of CDO Transformation at Barclays, where she focuses on not just the technologies, but the people on her team, making sure that the human connection is a part of every day. Vera has over 25 years of technology experience. She's been on the forefront of data and its monetization since its inception and leveraged data mining models for analytics and big data solutions years before it became the norm. Prior to joining Barclays, Vera spent more than 16 years running large-scale technologies teams at Goldman Sachs. And Vera is a member of the Women in Technology Network and loves mentoring and promoting diversity and inclusion. She is a member of the Innovation Board at Queens College, where she helps to foster and develop future technology stars. Vera earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in computer science and holds a Series 99 license. She lives in Manhattan with her daughter and enjoys spending time with her family, friends, and being active in her community. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me today. It is such an honor to be here with all of you. There are tons of accomplishments and distinguished accomplishments in all of your portfolios. And I think today, if we could just start with each of you just telling us a little bit more about your roles and what some of those titles actually mean. So let's get started with Tamara. What is a field engineer?
Oh, well, a field engineer could actually be so many different things, especially in construction. There's so many different aspects of construction that, a lot of people don't realize. When we're driving down the highway, say for instance, we're a lot of people are just used to seeing contractors, and they think that everybody out there, is just part of the contractor doing the work. But there's actually a lot more other people out there. Like, for instance, I'm part of the inspection team. So we're actually inspecting the work that's being done in construction to make sure the contractor is actually doing it correctly. And so it's our responsibility to actually go out there, measure everything, check everything against the plans and everything else. As an office engineer, I honestly don't have to go out to the field as much as I used to, which is great because, it gets cold here in New York and nobody wants to be outside, especially when it's snowing. And so with that, I'm actually required, like, my job is to check the inspector's reports to make sure that they're paying properly. They're reporting the work that's supposed to be done as per the plans and specifications. I'm checking to make sure that the contractors are using the right equipment and the right materials that they're supposed to be using. I'm processing their payments. It's so funny too, because when people see our job title and they go, oh, she's the office engineer, like, people automatically assume, oh, she must be the secretary. No, I don't think so. And sometimes, I have what I call my Jay-Z moment when I have to, allow me to reintroduce myself. Like, let me tell you who I am. I review submittals, plans. Things are not going out of my office until I'm satisfied with it. So whether or not I gotta, review lighting plans, or matter of fact, we're starting a new skate park and it's in the design phase. So that's what I've been doing the past few months, like going through the plans with the designers, telling them, okay, this may look great on paper, but it's not gonna work in the field. Like, sometimes, we like to draw these pretty little pictures, but I'm here to tell you this cannot be built. It cannot be built for this reason or whatever. And I've been writing specifications for the work that we're doing. So when the contractor comes, they know automatically what materials they can use, because that's my experience. I've done it already and I know what will work, what will not work. So as a field engineer, it's so much involved, and it's like really getting your hands dirty, and not reviewing something correctly can on, you know, that can be someone's life because we forgot to check something. So it's pretty busy.
It sounds very busy. Like there's certainly a lot of moving parts, right?
It is, but you know what? It's rewarding. To drive around the city and see different locations, whether it's 9A or, you know, several different bridges, and know that I had something to do with that, either from actually inspecting it, from being an inspector myself, or negotiating different prices with the contractor when I have to do orders on contract. It's great to be able to drive around your city and know that you are a part of that.
Thank you so much. Ingrid, do you mind jumping in and telling us a little bit about your days at Cinema Kids and how that got started?
Sure. So, like you were saying, I started in, working in film, moved into education, working with kids, and really found my passion there, and developing programs and projects and learning for kids, especially in particular elementary age kids. So kind of combining all that together and my passion for the two, formed Cinema Kids. That was about five or 6 years ago. We started with running after school programs in both public and private schools throughout the 5 boroughs, working with kids as young as 5, using cameras and learning how to edit and do a lot of things that people wouldn't consider ever having a 5-year-old or that young of a child doing. We kind of moved into, expanded the program, and now do, virtual summer camps, of course, virtual classes, in-person classes, camps, and really a variety of different kinds of programs for really in teaching kids how to use media and technology, software and programs to really teach to really express themselves creatively. So we have kids as young as 5 or 6 again, using programs, editing projects, learning the structure of storytelling and everything, and visual storytelling. And it's really pretty special. I still work with kids every day. I still try to teach, but I also have a large team of teachers and creative people also working and teaching the kids and everything. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of what we do. Yeah.
So kids actually like making movies?
Yeah. I mean, so we have kids making a variety of different projects. So anything from music videos to short films. A lot of the kids that have started with us 5 years ago are still taking classes with us, really kind of improving on their skills, entering their films into film festivals and everything. So they're learning how to, make movies, all kinds of video projects. We've expanded kind of our media education program too as well. So we cover things like graphic design now. We do video game design, but a lot of different media and STEM related programs, of course, for kids. Most importantly, like you brought out, Georgia, I'm a female working in a pretty male dominated industry. So because I'm now in education, it's really important for the company and the mission of what we do to really ensure that we're leveling the playing field with education in terms of learning and having hands-on experiences with this stuff, whether it's a woman or just somebody that doesn't have the resources to take programs like this normally. We offer a lot of financial aid. We offer a lot of services to make sure that the program is accessible for everybody. And just, make sure that we're following through with that mission of bringing kind of STEM education to everybody at a young age. Yeah.
You raise a great point there, Ingrid, and we're going to come back to that one in a minute about STEM education at a young age. Vera, are you all set? Can we hear you now? Your microphone is on.
Hold on. Yep. Okay. Let's see if this works now. Apologize, I had to relocate and get out of that common space. The joys of working from home. Yeah, so thanks. The CDO transformation group, what we do is I'm specifically focused on the client data space. So that's my primary pillar is client data. And it runs a gamut of negotiating contracts with third-party data providers on a daily basis to trying to get the funding for these data sources, as well as working with my teams to build out the overall architecture and the strategy and implement that. Barclays is is a very large bank that has gone through several mergers and acquisitions. So we kind of inherited a lot of legacy infrastructure and a lot of data that's not really well integrated because of the natural kind of evolution of our platforms and our acquisitions. So now we're at the inflection point where we really need to bring everything together so we can see the value of the data. So my role is to build out the client consolidated, single client data strategy, similar to what we did, Georgia, at Goldman and Liz. In the interest of full disclosure, we kind of did a lot of similar work together back in our old stomping ground. So yeah, so very similar to that. And I enjoy the different challenges that Barclays brings, whether it's cultural, because I'm working for an English bank and, and they're very English and they do things in a certain way. And it's a very large bank, not just an investment bank, which has been my traditional background. So going from a company where you think 30,000 is a lot to 80,000 is large, and then dealing with pandemic and how do you figure out and navigate, the organization is a challenge on its own. But yeah, I enjoy being a lot more technical than I've been maybe in a couple of years, which I really love, being more hands-on again and getting into the details of things and being buried in lots of data and trying to make sense of it. So that's been my role, and it's not as exciting as building, bridges or building infrastructure in a city that you can walk around and see and say, that's my stuff, or, the movies, it's just a different industry, but still interesting and challenging.
Thank you so much, Vera. Very interesting. And Liz, we move over to you.
Yeah, so it's great to be here and to see Vera and Georgia doing so well. We all work together, and as Vera just mentioned, so it's really fun being here. Thank you again, Georgia. So my current role, I founded this company, White Rock Data Solutions, last January. Well, I decided I was going to do it in 2019, and then I started my first client deal in January. And basically what I'm doing is I am advising, it's like consulting / advising business, providing solutions to startups and data tooling vendors who are trying to reach financial institutions. So on a daily basis, I'm speaking to the leaders, the chief revenue officers, the chief product officers of companies that are trying to sell into finance, insurance, also corporates, mostly finance and insurance, data related products, whether it's content or tooling. And I'm also spending a lot of time horizon scanning for what's the latest, what's the newest thing, so that I can stay really sharp about the trends that are happening in the industry. And I appreciated what you all have said, and what Vera just said about, being more technical for sure in this role. I'm looking at data sets. I'm studying data catalogs. I'm getting sets of data to, analyze it. I've hired my first software engineer. I'm working with third-party data scientists so that we can put together products and solutions for very demanding customers, which both of us, Georgia and Vera and I, are very familiar with on the trading floor and in the investment process. So I'm building out this business. I have a really nice set of clients that I'm working with, And I'm also advising, as Georgia said, the industry and helping them bring to market standards and best practices and considerations for how to bring some of these new data sets that are being created across the world, bring them to market in for use in the investment process. So, so some of that is really nitty gritty work that seems not glamorous, but I actually like it because you get into the details. And my engineering background, it appeals to me because then I learn how things work, whether I'm looking at a process or whether I'm looking at a specific data set, for example. So, so I have quite a lot of fun doing that. And then also there's all of the details and trying to build a business that can be quite challenging. You know, all of the, the billing and the, just managing your own calendar. And Georgia said she received a cancellation from me earlier today about this panel. I was like, oh man, what did I do to my calendar? But anyway, it's great fun, and I'm really enjoying my time working with clients and working with so many different types of data sets that give insights to companies and the performance of companies. And it's kind of like looking through the keyhole. It's like, okay, I can see that part of the company, how it's performing. It's like, oh, here's another data set. I can see, the sentiment on that company, or I can see the demand for hyperscale cloud providers, or I can see the analytics and the valuation metrics for companies. And so it's really, really interesting. And yeah, so I'll leave it there and happy to, participate in further questions as we move along.
Thank you, ladies. I think it's really interesting. I think everyone here has, more than 15 years experience in their respective areas. And something that is still very profound is that all of these fields are still considered very highly male dominated. I'm really curious, in terms of the years that you've been involved in the field, what type of progress have you seen in terms of the advancement of more female participation, not just as active involvement, but also within leadership in each of your spaces? And anyone can jump in on this.
I can, oh, go ahead.
Okay, so for me, especially in construction, you definitely don't see a lot of women. And one thing is funny, we were actually discussing this earlier. When I started 22 years ago, there weren't many mentors. It wasn't like there was a lot of women that I could go to for advice on particular things. I think I knew probably at most 4 other women, and we all had different roles. And it's hard because, especially I'm this little thing out in the field, I'm just getting, my feet wet. And I have these men that have been in construction. They're old enough to be my father. And I heard that, like I'd go out there and I'd tell them that their measurements are wrong, or they weren't doing something correctly. And, and I'm told, I've been doing this before you were born and you don't know anything, and all of that nonsense. And it was difficult because even my male colleagues, they're used to the whole frat, the brotherhood, and they laugh and like, yeah, she's a woman. And I remember even being a trainee and having to pull my colleagues aside and having to check them and say, we're on the same team and I need you to work with me. Like, you can't undermine me while we're out there. And it was difficult because I did not have a female to go to and be able to say, how did you deal with this? Like, and so it was very difficult. And so now here we are, like 20 something years later, and now there's even more women. And I'm grateful that there's more women coming into the field, still not as much as I would like. But when I see that, it's like, it tells me I need to be a mentor, because I know how it was to not have that back then, you know, for myself. So I need to be that for someone else. So if I see, you know, a woman, I guess quieting her voice because someone is talking over her or something like that, I'm there to encourage them, like, you're here, you know, and your voice is just as powerful as theirs, and speak up, because yeah, I hear them, but I also want to know your opinion, because we all have something to contribute. So I think that's the biggest thing, is knowing what I had to deal with and knowing how much I had to fight, and trying to make that so much easier for, you know, the people that are coming behind me.
So I have an anecdote that I'd like to share today. I was interviewing a female tech lead, a VP position, which is, you know, senior enough at the bank. All firms have different titles, but VP is a senior position. And, you know, I was talking to her about some databases that were chosen in her previous role. She's an employee at Barclays, so, and I said, you know, I really enjoy talking to you, and I really appreciate the fact that you are very technical and you continue to stay technical in your role. And, you know, she said that, you know, when I spoke to the local manager that I have in India, who's, you know, the direct hire for this role, when I spoke to him, I wanted to make sure he understands that that's what I want to do, because traditionally, certainly, in my experience, you know, a lot of times women in technology are being directed in a position of, you know, you'll do the soft skills like business analysis and project management. You're not going to be that technical. And, you know, and I've shared my own experiences where I was asked to move into these type of roles because we're just so good at organizing, multitasking. I think it's inherent for females to be just naturally good at those things and be technical. So when people see those pieces shine, they're like, oh, you're so good at blah. Why don't you go do that instead of being a tech lead and being more hands-on? And, I shared my story with her, and I said, I just said, no, I'm not going to do this job because I don't want to do that type of work. I want to stay technical. I love doing that. That's my passion. That's what I studied. That stuff is logical to me. Doing some other things that are natural to me, it's part of the byproduct of my work, but it's not my passion. And I kind of wanted to share that story because, stay true to who you are, no matter what, your leadership might think you should be doing or being pushed in a direction of they're giving guidance. But what you truly enjoy is being hands-on, being technical, stand up and say your position, live your truth, right? Because you're the one who has to wake up every day and do that job with some vigor and enjoyment and excitement. We all have ups and downs in our days, but at the end of the week, you want to look back at your week and say, there were components of my week that I really had fun. We solved this problem, or we moved the needle on something. We have a better understanding of a problem. And you want to be able to say that every week. You should be able to say there were components of my week that were really fun. And, and I think that's so important.
Yeah, I was going to say, how are we doing, in terms of, and I'm coming from the frame of reference of, well, actually large technology organizations, large financial institutions, but also small firms. A lot of these smaller startups that I'm working with, it's all men. It's all men. All the CEOs, most of the funding it's all men. And then in terms of, so all my clients, I don't have one woman client actually, out of, almost a couple dozen. So, and then when I look at large technical institutions, um, you know, focusing on the technology organization, I think, it's low single digits, or sorry, low double digits, like 10%, 11%, 12%, who are in leadership. And making this, the senior promotions, it's single digits, right? So we have a long way to go, and I think there's a lot of hurdles. And Vera, hit the nail on the head with it, which is put the women in the more administrative roles, because they couldn't possibly be technical enough, and so that's one thing, is that kind of stereotype. And so I think that and we do lose women, because they leave to start to have families, and then they come back, and in some respect then are treated not equally, because they have the family obligations way more heavily on them than on the men. Typically, it's not true everywhere, but typically. And so I think that, kind of trying to right that ship, right? There's a lot of stuff we need to do. And, organizations are really trying. But I think I think we need leaders, men and women. And honestly, I will say that I think some of the women are the worst in supporting other women. It's just, I've had it happen to me a number of times in my career, and from women. And so I think we really need leaders who understand that diversity really, really, really is going to diverse set of team members is going to give you the strongest and best performance. And until we kind of align our recruiting, align our promotion, align our sponsorship of women and diversity, I know we're talking even more broadly diverse, beyond gender, until we really, really do that and walk our talk, meaning leaders saying, instead of just saying, yes, I advocate women, they say, I'm going to have 51% of my leaders be women, because that's reflects my workforce. Or, and I know there's, unintended consequences from doing that. So you have to be careful and make sure that you're promoting for the right reasons and putting people in place and in positions for the right reasons. But really, we need leaders who walk the talk, right? So if you're saying I advocate for women, then take part of your budget and hire more women. Or when you're sitting in, if you're a senior leader who's a man, when you're sitting in these committee meetings where you're talking about candidates for jobs, advocate for the women who are in your sphere, and really advocate for them. And until we kind of have that action truly happening, and this belief that highly diverse teams are more performant, and people really believe that, they're going to continue. I think, okay, I'm going to be a little bit on the other side, say, I think we're really, we're not going to move the dial much, unless we really, really, really at the most senior levels of companies. And I know it can happen, because I actually had a conversation with the CEO of a big company a couple of weeks ago. And he said, listen, I am the chief diversity officer, and I'm publicly stating that over the next X number of years, I am going to have women in management roles. And I mean, you could tell it's visceral, like he's really going to do it. And his workforce is a high makeup of women. And so I think we really need role models, men and women, who advocate and take actions beyond the talk is cheap kind of thing. So anyway, I think we have a long way to go. I think it's broader than STEM. Of course, STEM is the toughest. It's the lowest percentages. And I'm sure we're going to have an opportunity to talk more about how to get more women into STEM. I guess my comments were really focused on in the management roles and the promotional opportunities for women. I think we have a lot more work to do.
I just want to quickly add one thing. I struggle with this every day in my hiring of my team, because we're kind of at the bottom of the rung in terms of trying to make these changes, working with kids and teaching them. I'm selecting their role models at our camps and our programs and stuff, and it's really something I take very seriously and think of a lot when we're selecting who's going to be teaching them, video editing or some other kind of technical thing, and making sure that the team we have is as diverse as possible, so that anybody who comes to the camp has those role models, and has those people to lean on and really see that they've, where they are, what their role is, that this woman is making, leading this team and being a director and doing all this technical stuff, that, these young girls can do that as well. Or whoever, whatever their circumstances or, whatever their background is, trying to kind of have somebody there on the team to really be that role model that they can connect with. And then also a struggle that I haven't figured out yet is that the kids that we see who come to the program are predominantly boys as well. So there's a decision the parents are making, or the kids somewhere in there, there's a decision being made for those kids that it's already 70-80% boys who are coming to the program. So we struggle with trying to figure out a way to diversify the group of kids who come, making sure that there are, safe spaces for girls to really explore this stuff. And that's something we haven't figured out yet, but we think about it every day. Yeah.
Well, all really good points. And I think, something that came across was in terms of the accountability and responsibility, not just of women, but anyone who's in a leadership role, and having other advocates as well understand and embrace the value of having diversity throughout their organization, or leadership that is actually representative of your populace. And I think what's really very interesting, Ingrid, you mentioned that typically there's some decision being made even at a young age that the more technical items should be more of a focus for boys. But I think academically, just looking at how kids perform in school, girls actually outperform boys up until middle school in more of the STEM related subject areas. And then something happens in middle school. And that's probably around the point where, some implicit biases start entering into the thinking and even the approach, and they're steered away from really advancing in these fields. What kinds of things do you think we can do to actually continue to engage our young girls in these areas where they understand not only is it an option, but it's something they're very, very capable of achieving?
I think that it comes down to the biggest thing for me is making sure, again, we have those role models there. So we have those female leaders as examples, making sure the girls in the program understand, where that I'm a business owner and I'm a woman, that the other teacher is a female and she directs movies and spends hours on her computer doing, building video games or whatever it is. Just seeing that that's an option, that it's okay, that, that we're going to be there for them to kind of explore that as well. And then is a big part of it, I think. And then also just creating an atmosphere within the camp itself, and being hyper aware of the dynamics that may happen between kids. Whether the 3 boys and 1 girl, there may be treating her differently and stuff, in some kind of very low key kind of hidden way, and really making sure that the men, the women, everybody who works there are very hyper aware of this, and just trying to get rid of that and create a really, really open and safe space for anybody who's there. And then again, like I said, we still are trying to figure that out. I mean, I think a lot of people in education are figuring out what the root of the issue is, like, where does it come from? Why at the age of 5 are 75% of them boys and 25% are girls? They haven't decided what they want yet. So somebody is making that decision. And then just trying to, yeah, it's a struggle. You know, we think about it all the time. But I think, Georgia, like you said, I think one of the best things we can do, the easiest things we can do, is to have a diverse team who can model, to show them what they can actually do and be, and that it's normal and great and wonderful, you know? Yeah.
I think some of it, I think it's, you know, it's interesting. And my daughter chose not to go into anyway remotely to technology, also she thought, but now, you know, the coolest thing for her to work on is digital transformation. I think that's technical. So, you know, and she always thought that she's not really good at math, and I've always been good at math, and probably the only subject I ever loved and was easy for me. So she always, maybe she was intimidated somewhat from that and didn't want to kind of pursue anything with math and science. So for her, you know, growing up in a house where single mom raised her, you know, on a technology income and did okay, right? For her to kind of view this as a nerdy job, and suddenly, even though she majored in political science, she's doing management consulting and she loves digital transformation. So how do you kind of embed that passion into them early on so that they kind of completely diverge? And a lot of her friends also are not interested in technology, even though they're super smart, great in math and science and love it, but they don't want to be in technology. Like, how do we even rebrand these jobs to be like these really interesting things and not the traditional way you think of the boys sitting in their basement, you know, playing, you know, dungeons or whatever games, and not actually solving world problems like Twitter and Instagram and TikTok, all of those things that it's all technology. Like, we live through technology, our lives. Like, can you imagine this pandemic without technology? Mm-hmm. It would be horrible. So I don't know. I think that's the challenge of like, how do you brand? You almost need to rebrand technology in a way that's kind of appealing to, you know, every gender, right? Every demographic, in the same way like Apple made computers and phones and everything cool, right? It's probably one of the single products that is so crosses every demographic, every you know, gender, population, race, color, anything and everything. It's like everybody wants to have that product, right? How do you make technology that cool, right? It's almost like, how do you make being in technology as cool as being, you know, having your iPhone?
That's such a great point, Vera. One of the things we did with high school girls was we ran a Girls Who Code program, mm-hmm. and in the summer, and it was a very safe environment where girls could learn with you know, other high school girls from schools across the city, New York, and what we noticed was that they might be interested in fashion, they might be interested in art, they might be interested in, you know, not necessarily what they thought was technical, mm-hmm. right? Business, you know, I'm interested in business, or I'm interested in data, you know, studying, you know, to cure diseases, maybe a medical career. And they came in with those interests. And then through the program and the projects, they learned that technology can be, it's not like you go and just go in a room and code. You could be developing a website to sell your fashion products, right? Like build a fashion company, or, you know, create tools to analyze data, right? So that you could come up with, develop new, drugs and things like that. So they were able to kind of see a path to their passion, and then kind of layer on top of that the technical understanding. So it's like, it wasn't like their passion was taken away. It was they could see that they could, build things and pursue their passion in a technical way. And so that was a really number one, rewarding experience to advocate for the programs. And number two, it was great to see then these girls go on to technical careers, because we followed their careers going forward. You guys probably heard of the program Girls Who Code, and a number of organizations. I guess it's national now. I heard Reshma Sojani speak on the radio the other day, and she was passing the mantle on to new CEO. And she was describing how she might have even said international, but certainly all over the US. And her goal was to reach 1 million girls to code, to help close the gap, the technical gap. And so reaching them early. And one of the things that we learned through that process was we needed to go even earlier. And I think it sounds like, Georgia, you're doing some cool stuff to, reach girls earlier in middle school. And more programs, just so we can reach girls where they are and teach them in an environment so it they get hooked earlier in a safe way. Then they can kind of have that foundation when they go forward to stick with it. I mean, I didn't discover a technical, I was good in math and really liked math in high school, math and science. And then when I got to college, I went as a French major because that's what you did, and then I was like, oh man, this is so, no disrespect to learning languages, because that's very important, but I was super bored. And in my math and science classes, my engineering classes were like, oh, I can get an answer, and I discovered, coding and math and engineering in college. But, I would have been much further along had I discovered it much earlier. And would have, I think, felt safer, just like our kids would feel safer earlier, and protected in some way if they had a foundation that they could defend from, against the competition, if you know what I mean.
I think it's kind of goes back to what Vera has said, when she was giving her anecdote about how, we get pushed in society. I think, as young girls, society tells us that we're supposed to be a certain way, that we're supposed to follow this type of career path. So even if we have these interests, it's like, well, this is what women do. Women do this and women do that. And this is what we are shown on television and other media, that this is what women do. And so I want to do that when I become older. I want to do what women do. I know a couple of years there was, a drive to kind of change the whole look of engineering. And so we were doing like Instagram pictures, to show that you can be pretty and be an engineer, because, we have these stereotypes of what engineers are supposed to look like, whether, you're in computer science, whether you're in construction, like, no, like I'm not supposed to look like that. I will never find a husband, like this is the attitude, the whole mindset. But it's like, no, you can still be beautiful. You can still wear makeup. You can still do all of these things, and you can still be in tech. You can still do all of these great things using your mind and not be pigeonholed to what society is trying to make you. And so I know, even myself, I still go back to my high school, Brooklyn Technical High School, and I'm a mentor to the kids there. And it's so funny to like go there and see them, because they hear of the engineers that went before them, but it's different for them to actually see the engineers and to see we are doing this. So yes, you can. And if this is where your passion is, don't think that you have to go off to college and do something else. No, you can study this, and you can be in computer science if you want. You can be an industrial engineer if you want. You can do all of these things regardless of what society that came before told you. This is your time. You can be whatever you want, even if that means it's taking, you know, a job from a man or whatever the case. It's your time. You know, and before I cut off Liz, I just wanted to tell you, I completely understand where you're coming from when people talk about, you know, being on the side of women and advocating for women. And we have these women, and, you know, I'm for women. And then when you go to their company, those women are making 72 cents to the dollar of the men. And then when you ask them why, when you claim to be for women, well, that's what she asked for. You know, and it's like, yes, she asked for that. Why? Because society has told us that we are worth less. And if you really want to be an advocate for a woman, don't just go based on what she asked for. Pay her what she's worth.
Well said.
Very well said, Tamara. And before we hop into the participant questions, I have one last question for all of the panelists. And, you know, we spoke a lot about women in the field and some of the challenges. And what is one piece of advice you would give a woman, a young lady that's interested in possibly pursuing a similar career path or the same industry and getting started out? What's a piece of advice that you would have for her?
I would jump in with speak up. And, you know, we feel more comfortable, at least I feel more comfortable. It's just, you know, I guess in my DNA when there are other women at the table. I think that there's some science that says, you know, we need 3 of us, and then we feel like it's safe to speak up, you know, when you're at a table full of a bunch of men. But I wish I had in my career spoken up sooner. I was pretty quiet in the first part of, you know, the first 10 years, I would say. I was pretty quiet, listening and contributing where I thought I really had something value-added to say. But what I learned was that I needed to speak up. I needed to make my viewpoint heard. You know, I needed to say it, make it heard, and not back down when there was a little bit of, you know, dismissiveness coming towards me. And really just continue to be commercial, understand the goals, and continue to get the whole thought out so that they really understood where I was coming from. And it took me a while to figure out how to speak truth to power. But I wish I had learned that much earlier in my career. So don't be afraid, speak up.
I think that's a brilliant advice. And I personally learned a lot from you, Liz, watching you speak up and push back when it's needed in a very professional and very subtle but effective way. So great technique. Liz has great techniques. I will say that. You know, my advice is, you know, stay true to yourself. Don't follow what other people think you should be doing. And many times you will be offered opportunities that if it doesn't feel right, don't take them. Because I've done that and it just blew up in my face famously. So, you know, just stick to your guts and, you know, believe in yourself and just keep pushing through. And, you know, everyone has ups and downs in their careers, but stay focused and just keep pushing through. But make sure you stay as technical if that's what you enjoy. But, you know, wake up and do something that you love.
Ingrid, Tamara, do you have a piece of advice?
Honestly, I don't really think, I think these 2 ladies said it. I mean, like I said, I tell you know, women that all the time. There's a designer that I mentor. We're working on the new project together. And so with dealing with designs, she's one of, you know, the few women on the design team. And so often, like, she'll text me and she's like, well, you know, we need to do this. And I'm like, and you need to tell them. You know, I can speak up for her, but no, you need to be your voice. And so she spoke up and stuff got added. And I was like, look at that. You were correct, which I was so grateful she did speak up because, like I said, it's in design phase, but when it comes to construction, it's going to be my baby. And I needed what she was advocating for. And like I said, I could have advocated for her, but I told her, I'm like, you have to talk up because you have thoughts that other people will not. And it doesn't make you right or wrong. It's just a different perspective. And sometimes people are just in their own bubble that they're not thinking about that. And so if you're thinking outside of their bubble, if you're thinking outside of their box, you bring something else to the table that, you know, we say as engineers, we're solving problems that you didn't even know you had. And so I'm telling her, they don't even know they have this problem and you're solving it. So bring that to the table and we all benefit from it.
I would just add, I agree with everybody, what everybody said, but I think something important is to learn how to really kind of follow through with everything too. I think that can be the hardest part, whether you find something you like, an idea you want to do, something you want to pursue. The hardest part is actually putting it in action and following through and finishing something and really getting where you want to be. So, you know, you have to be a little crazy sometimes to get places where you want to be. Sometimes everything's telling you that's, you know, the wrong decision, or, you know, things are fighting against you. But I think the most important thing is really to decide what you want to do and really go the long haul and get there and follow through with, you know, your passions and, you know, despite whatever may be against you. Yeah.
Thank you so much, ladies. That was all wonderful advice. We do have one audience question that I'm hoping we can answer before we break. So the question is, do the panelists feel added pressure to succeed because of your gender and or race? And if you do, how do you cope with that pressure?
Definitely. We say we have to work 3 times as hard, probably 4. When I started in the business, I used to say that I had several different things going on against me. You know, the fact that I was young, with all these other people so much older than me. You know, I started at 21 years old. And so, you know, having all these, you know, older people saying, hey, you just, you know, got out of high school or whatever. So that was one. Then I'm a Black female in the industry. So I'm Black, I'm a female, and no one wants to listen to me. You know, my being construction is not just male, but, you know, white dominated industry. And then what's also strange is I was also pretty. And it was like, you know, and I'm a straight female. Thank you. In construction. So it's like, it would be different, ironically, you know, in this horrible way. If I was an ugly female, then maybe it would justify why I would be smart in construction. But because I was pretty, unfortunately, I got the only reason why she's being promoted is because he likes her. You know, he wants to date her. It had nothing to do with my skill. So I always had to overcompensate and show, no, I'm getting this promotion because I'm 3 times better than you. You know, if there's a big project and they wanted somebody to supervise, they know I'm going to show up. They know that I will be there. They know that I will get the task done and not be, you know, partying or whatever, simply because, you know, I'm the supervisor, so I can do what I want. So yes, definitely hard for me, you know, because I mean, I had to fight. Like, I literally had people say, well, it's only because you're a female, or because the supervisor, and it's so bad that I had one supervisor actually he became worse, like yelling at me and disrespecting me because he was trying to prove that he didn't like me. And, you know, so he wanted to show everybody, see, like, that's not why I'm promoting her. And I'm like, and so it was so funny because he actually saw me and I asked him, I was like, why are you yelling at me so much all the time? And he's like, you know why? I said, because this person said that, you know, is because you like me. And he goes, yeah. I said, that is stupid. You know, and he's like, but I don't know what to do. That's not it. Like, that's not how you solve that problem. If this person is upset, whatever, like, then you need to tell him, no, it's because she earned this. But, you know,
Fair
that's
enough.
not the way it happens.
Lots of challenges, additional pressure, and triple fold almost.
Right.
Ladies, thank you all so much for joining today. I think you shared a lot of wonderful nuggets in terms of your experience, some of the challenges you've faced, as well as great advice for anyone else looking to pursue a career in any of these fields. I want to thank you so much for your time today. I would like to thank all of our participants and the audience who joined in today. If there are questions that you did not have an opportunity to ask today, please feel free to email us. And you can also post them on any of our social media pages, which is at Ionic6, that's the number 6, ORG, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. So thank you again and have a wonderful afternoon.